Okay, so I'm here with Rene Picard.
Yes.
I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions on your involvement in Bitcoin and particularly in Lightning. You're relatively new to the space. Physically, you've sort of manifested quite recently, but I imagine digitally you existed for a while within Bitcoin.
Not so much.
Not so much. When did you first sort of get interested in Bitcoin?
So I think getting interested in Bitcoin late 2013. That was basically the second time somebody pointed me to Bitcoin.
Sure.
And the first time where somebody pointed me to Bitcoin and actually sent the white paper. So I could read it, and then I read it and I was like, this is a great idea. I like it.
And then from there, so I met you probably at the first Lightning Hack Day, which was in June.
Yeah.
So how did you end up there?
So the situation is that before, when I was interested in Bitcoin, I was still pursuing my PhD and basically didn't have time to work on Bitcoin because I did other stuff, non-related to cryptography, but just data science stuff, statistics, machine learning, these kinds of problems, right? And at some point in time, I needed to see what I do with my life, and I didn't want to work for a company, so I decided I want to be self-employed. And I was very interested in the Lightning Network at this time already. And I was considering, should I move to Lightning development or should I be a data scientist? And then I said, well, it's very natural for me to be a data scientist. I'm a mathematician. I was pursuing a PhD in computer science, right? Mm. But then on Reddit, I saw a post that the Lightning Hack Day took place. And I was like, you know what? This is a good moment. Let's just go there. I mean, I think a month before I wrote the German Wikipedia article about the Lightning Network. And
okay.
Then I was like, well, you know what, I should at least once go there. And that was basically the first time that I appeared in the scene. Before, I also on Reddit, most of the time I didn't even write anything.
Within Bitcoin, people, obviously they're like intelligent people, right. And then when someone new and bright steps into the space who people think can contribute to the space, then there's a lot of energy and attention on them.
Yeah, people are curious, what does he bring to the table, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
So how has that sort of manifested for you? Because you've been very busy.
Yeah, so, it's actually a nice thing, right? Because you can actually talk to people, you get feedback, you can actually easily talk to other Lightning developers and share your ideas and see what they think. So that's actually quite nice. I didn't expect this. In the beginning, when I first saw the Lightning Network, I thought, yeah, those are these people who already know Bitcoin very, very well, and they do. Mm. And then they build something on top, and they're extremely talented, and there's no way I'm ever going to talk to them or ever going to work together with them because there's so much catch-up I have to do. Until I do all the catch-up, they are ahead again. Right, so I thought this is never going to happen, actually, and actually does. So that was quite nice. It's a very open and welcoming community. You have to do your homework, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Obviously, I've seen you speak in front of a room of people tonight who are very bright people who've been in Bitcoin for a long time, and you were able to, you knew enough. You were able to hold your own, and you were able to answer their questions, and.
But as I said before we did the interview, right, there's some people in the room who should have rather gone to the Australia meeting than me, because at least from the technical detail level, they know a lot more stuff than I do at this point in time, because I'm still in the learning phase. I have to admit this. Right, so I think I have some understanding of the bolts and the Lightning Network protocol, but I haven't implemented this from scratch. I actually haven't even contributed so much code yet. So there's still a lot of stuff I have to learn.
Could it be that maybe they see some value in you as well because you are an educator, you do value education, don't you? And you do have your own YouTube channel where you've got a lot of sort of very successful YouTube videos implementing people on helping people implement Lightning stuff. Yeah. So do you think that that's one of the reasons in which that they sort of also see value in you, that you can help communicate those ideas to people?
I think that's part of the reason. So I'm very interested in education in general. Even when I was in the university, most people want to do scientific stuff, and I always thought you can do the best science if you're able to transport knowledge to people and communicate this knowledge back. So I have been doing a lot of voluntary teaching, not only in the university but also in schools. I have actually, before I went to the Lightning development, I was a high school teacher for 1 year. Okay. And the main reason actually was
I wanted to. Yeah, once upon a time.
Yeah, but so the main reason for me was I wanted to see how difficult it is to teach calculation with fractions to 6th graders.
Yeah.
And So that was one of the most interesting phases in my life, actually. Right. So going back to your question, the Lightning Network development obviously is technically very sophisticated, and yes, there is some gap that you have to bridge when you want to participate. And I would assume that people are happy that I'm trying to bridge this gap and trying to onboard people by talking about the protocol, talking about what you can do with it, but also talking about implementations and how you can build a lab or something like this.
Sure.
But actually, we should talk about what you're doing with all your hardware stuff at some point in time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm an imbecile, so that's the kind of angle I have. If I can build something which someone may find some use in at some point, I think, because often some of the people who are obviously in the space are right up here, and they got sort of. I think it's quite important to kind of narrow the envelope somewhat.
Sure.
And then obviously if imbeciles like myself can build something, then that's cool. That means that the system's working.
Right.
As a kind of guinea pig on whether we can actually use this technology for stuff. So you've just come back pretty much from Adelaide.
Yes.
And then in Adelaide, so what were you doing there?
Learning.
Sure. Learning on the job.
Learning on the job. So to most degree, I have to admit, I felt that I was wrong in the room. Right? There were people in the room who do this for 3 years, as I mentioned before, who have written large fractions of the spec, large fractions of certain implementations, discussing on a very detailed level which proposals they want to accept or not.
Sure.
And for many of these discussions, I could not really participate in the sense of contributing to the discussion, but I could pull a lot of information out. And actually, I talked to one of the developers later. I was like, why did you guys invite me, actually? And they basically answered, well, we need to have some process of onboarding people. And for you, it seemed reasonable to have you there.
Yeah, no.
So they didn't expect me to contribute that much. And I wish they had said this before.
I see. Okay. Why you sort of putting your hand up and trying to contribute your ideas, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, some of the big things to come out of Adelaide. So AMP. So, what is AMP?
AMP is
as an imbecile,
atomic multipath routing. So the idea is, if you want to send a payment to somebody, you can basically decide if the other person signals that they allow this. You can split up the payment into several smaller payments and send each of them like a regular payment, basically.
So that would mean that the hops between the payments could be smaller. They wouldn't have to be as big.
So I think there are these statistics that say the smaller the payment, the higher the chance that the routing is successful. So if you split up the payment into smaller payments, then you have a higher chance that all of them get routed. Of course, also, since there is a chance that they don't get routed, even if one doesn't get routed, that's bad, but then you can try a different route. So, I mean, that's a little bit of like, we have to figure this out, how to split up payments yet. But first of all, we're supporting this.
Yeah, sure.
Right, on a protocol level. Like, you don't have to like negotiate this with the other person. It basically happens when you pay. It's already in the invoice later that the receiving node says, hey, you can also split this up.
I mean, I think when we went to the New York Hack Day, one of the key things I came away with when Christian spoke was that with Lightning, I mean, as amazing Lightning is, it was a minimal viable product.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's so important to remember, that all this cool shit's being built on top of it,
Right.
So something else I kind of heard was Wombo. What's Wombo? Is that right?
Yeah, Wombo allows for channels to have arbitrary size.
Oh, okay.
As long as you can provide the liquidity.
So that means that we could fund with more than, what is it limited to now currently?
It's a sixth of a Bitcoin.
Okay.
But you can also have channels funded with 6 Bitcoins.
I see.
Or 60.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's really reckless.
As reckless as you want to be.
Yeah, cool. What were the other key points in Adelaide then? What were the key things which were discussed? Because you said something in your talk about how there were 60 different points.
Yeah, most of them, they're quite technical.
Yeah.
Just like really small details where, so for example, one small thing is the CLTV deltas that are maximum possible were different in each implementation, and they just agreed, well, let's have a certain value and put this in the spec, right? So easy stuff. Also
Sure.
easy to negotiate. Even I understood this, right?
Yeah.
And there wasn't basically a coin flip whether we do this or that. Right? But then, of course, there was some other stuff. So what we try in Bolt 1.1 is to make improvements to the protocol that everyone will support, where we don't need an update of the base layer. And I think the main focus was on increasing the usability. because for the minimum viable prototype, basically we wanted to have a proof of concept, showing, hey, this is working, right?
Yeah.
It's working badly, because we are like,
Or
don't care for,
yeah.
but we also don't care for user experience at this point
No,
in time, because we are technical people, we're showing it's working.
Yeah.
So now the features that are coming are helping more with user experience. So that being said, for example, dual funded channels. So currently, if you manage to install your Lightning node, right? You have installed your Bitcoin node, you have installed your Lightning node, you put funds on your Lightning node, and then you open a channel, you talk to your friend, and you're like, hey, can you send me some money? And he's like, no.
Yeah, sure.
I can receive money from you, right? And then you're frustrated. So with dual funded channels, you open a channel, but both sides of the channel put funds on them, which means that you can receive money right away.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's
and
nice.
There was something about being able to splice in and out of the main chain.
So currently the capacity of the channel is fixed.
Yes.
When you want to change it, you basically have to close the channel and make a new one.
New transaction.
That's
isn't it?
two new transactions, closing and opening.
Yeah.
With splicing, you can have the channel operational, and when a transaction is confirmed deep enough, it's basically being, technically it's working a little bit different, but it's basically merged into the channel, so you can basically increase the capacity, or you can...
More of a seamless flow from funds from the main chain into
Yes,
Lightning.
exactly.
And
also
out of
out.
Lightning. Yeah, okay.
Both directions.
Point. Well, so what's your sort of hope for Lightning? Because it's the sort of last question, I think, because it's pretty bloody cold out here.
That it gets adopted at some point in time.
Absolutely.
That it helps adopting Bitcoin acceptance. I think Bitcoin is the thing. How was the first answer on the mailing list? This is a system we very well need, but I fear it doesn't scale to the required size.
Yeah, that's a very important point.
Wasn't that pretty much the first comment, right?
Yeah.
And I think the person who made this comment had a lot of insights, but didn't see that Lightning is actually a creative use of Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right, so maybe it does scale to the required size. So I hope it really does, and that Lightning provides this.
Well, I mean,
that
Lightning
would be my hope.
Lightning for me, it feels like it fulfills the sales jargon of this sort of instant censorship-resistant payment stuff.
Right.
Whereas, I mean, obviously Bitcoin isn't that. Bitcoin is censorship-resistant, and Bitcoin, it's cool for all the reasons we like it, but it isn't instant. It's not, Whereas something like Lightning is. So,
right.
I think it kind of fulfills some of those original promises. And then, obviously, as a minimal viable product, seeing all the new upgrades which are going to happen. When do you think that, was it 1.1?
Yeah, probably 1.5 years or 2.
There's a lot of work which needs to be done, isn't there?
There's just a lot of work. I mean, and people are busy, and people also need to onboard new people, educate people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of communication overhead. I mean, maybe somebody, I wonder if they ever go to vacation, actually. They seem so busy to work 24/7 on it. But let's be honest, I mean, coming up with a technology is one thing, but executing takes years. It's just, I mean, I understand people are like, when Lightning, when Moon, when...
And then also not being reckless, and you all have got people's money on here, so you need to make sure that
you want to have a rock-solid technology for stuff like this.
Yeah. It should be slow development.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because Lightning kind of feels like it developed quite quickly, but now, obviously, now that there is liquidity on there, that obviously people are now starting to take their time more with making sure that it's done properly. Well, there we are. Thank you, Rene. That was
thank
a pleasure.
you very much. It was great talking to you.
Room 77, the first bar to sell beer for Bitcoin, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think local Bitcoins was made here, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it was on that sofa. And the first Android wallet was here as well, was built here.
Okay.
Because they were fed up of bringing their laptops to pay for beer at the bar.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Okay, cheers, Rene.
Well, cheers.
Thanks.